Um, it's wonderful to be back at SaaSBoomi. Last time I was here was 2020. India had just crossed 30 unicorns. 3 of them were SaaS companies. Freshworks, as all of you know, is the first Indian SaaS unicorn. We also had Druva and Icertis. That was 2020. Wow, what a difference 5 years has made. 2025, here we are in March, 118 unicorns, about 27 SaaS unicorns. But the reality is, the game hasn't even started yet. Or I should say, the game in many ways has changed by an order of magnitude. And what I wanted to do today is, I sort of call this, talk 10x, not 100%, because as startup founders, I saw the, you all raised your hands this morning. Many of you are very early stage companies, with $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, maybe $5 million in revenue. Some of you maybe even less than that. As startup founders, 100%, 100% double every year, right? Double the output of your product team, grow revenue by 100%. That always seemed like a lot. And what I'm hoping I'll do in the next 20 minutes or 25 minutes is try to get all of you to think much bigger. Because the environment that we are in today, the India that we are in today, the technology environment we are in today, just requires that, right? So it's no longer really about 100%. If nothing else, you don't walk away, just walk away thinking that doubling year on year, especially if you're an early stage company, is just no longer interesting. You should all be thinking 10x, and hopefully I'll get you to think a little broader, think a little bigger over the next 20 minutes or so. Girish this morning put up a slide that said the TAM has expanded. Actually, the TAM has expanded a lot more. If you look at the addressable software spend in the world today, right? I'm talking about software and parts of the cloud spend. It's about $1 trillion, okay? So all of you in this room and everybody else, like you, up until about 3 years ago, was playing in a market that was $1 trillion. That trillion is now 10x. What is 10 trillion? 10 trillion is basically the white-collar labor pool that is up for grabs that is combined with software. If what you are doing today is basically building the same software that was going after the $1 trillion, you're just not thinking big enough. In fact, what I'd urge all of you to do, many of you to do actually, after you're done with SaaSBoomi today and tomorrow, go back to the drawing board and say, are you really building the kind of product or the kind of product and service to really go after the $10 trillion opportunity? This has really never been as exciting as it's ever been. What you see on this slide is the public market cap creation of every technology wave going to the mainframe wave, okay? This is the total public market cap of the leading companies of that technology era. Take a look at this slide, okay? In the internet era, I'm not even going back to mainframes and PCs, there was $650 billion of public market cap created. That became 2.2 trillion in the mobile wave, and it became 6.5 trillion in the cloud wave, right? What do you notice here? 3 to 4x. So if you just take that, add a 3x to 6.5 trillion, I get close, you get close to 20 trillion. If you add a 4x, you get close to 25 trillion. So what this slide really says is, this wave that we're in now, we're at the early stages of this wave, the AI wave, at a minimum will create a total public market cap of between 20 and 25 trillion. Okay, this is before we get to AGI. I'm not talking about AGI. If that really is what we're talking about, now of course a large part of that will be captured by the incumbents. Are we going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trillion dollar new companies? The answer is absolutely yes. Are we going to see many $10 billion startups that are going to be built in AI? Absolutely, right? And what I'm really hoping is that a whole bunch of those startups will come from India and actually will be from this room. AI will impact every industry, we know this. But really, it's going to impact every industry in very fundamental ways, okay? Financial services is not one industry. It's many industries. It's banking, it's insurance, it's brokerage. It just goes on and on and on. But just that one industry is going to be transformed in very fundamental ways. I'll talk about one or two examples as we go through. Healthcare, pharmaceuticals, actually that's not even one industry. Healthcare is many industries, right? Payers, providers, pharmaceutical companies, life sciences companies, right? You look at services, IT and BPO. India's exports of IT and BPO is now $250 billion. You know, I'm really glad that Cognizant and Infosys now have 20 to 30% of their code written by AI. But like, really? Why are new companies not being built that are AI first, that dramatically change the equation when it comes to IT and BP services, right? And the list goes on. But I think it's really important to keep in mind, there's a whole vertical breakout on vertical AI. Look, I'm telling you, India should have $1,000 billion companies just on the first line on this page. Just the first line, not the second line, the third line. That is the extent of the opportunity, right? And with AI, you get to rewrite everything, everything. But it's not just industries. It's every function, right? Whether you look at sales, you look at marketing, you look at customer support. How many of you have used Cursor in this room? How many of you use Cursor every day, right? Yeah, about a third of you, right? Those of you that code, that don't use, that haven't used Cursor, please try it. It's the kind of product, and you'll see many, many more of these products, right, that will evolve. Cursor is really a generation 1 AI product when it comes to a coding assistant, right? Every aspect of engineering, every aspect of product development. You know, I spent 8 years at Google. I was shocked when Google spent $32 billion to buy Wiz. What's the big insight? The big insight is AI changes security, right? We need to see many, many, many more companies, right? So in every single one of these functions, you're going to see dramatic impact in AI. And I would surmise that some of the current incumbents, and by the way, it's interesting, right? Companies founded 10 years ago, we call them incumbents already. These are SaaS companies, very, very high-performing SaaS companies. We call them incumbents already. Some of those incumbents will make these transitions. Many of them won't, because the basic premise on which they built these companies is no longer valid. As all of you know, look, foundation models are getting faster, they're getting better, and they're cheaper. As builders in AI, the thing you want to keep in mind is this is going to continue, okay? So you should be building products, you should be building capabilities for where the models are going, not where the models are today. And the other thing you should also ask yourself is, assume that the models are going to get 10x better. Assume the models are going to get 10x cheaper. In that world, which is probably only 12, 24 months away, what capability does that give you to develop truly breakthrough products and services for your customers? But it's not just the models. As all of you know, we saw this with DeepSeek. It's also become the time of open source. And I can't tell you, this is incredibly exciting for AI builders. Why is it incredibly exciting? Because your number one cost is compute. I'm talking about application AI companies. I'm talking about infrastructure companies. I'm talking about tooling companies, right? Your number one cost, your number two cost, your number three cost is compute. Now, what does open source do? It collapses the cost of compute. Actually, the added benefit is over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see some serious frontier model companies that will come out of India, and they'll be all built on open source. But that is a talk for a different day. Now let's talk about what does this really mean, right? So it's a big deal. The time is now. You've got an opportunity to create companies at scales, at magnitudes that we haven't seen before. But I think the most important thing is AI lets you build 10x better products, okay? If there's one thing I want you guys to take away, it's this. It's 10x better products. What I would tell you is that over the last 5 to 10 years around the world, every SaaS company that has been started and founded is an incremental SaaS company. Because it didn't give you that, we didn't have the underlying technical capability to build a 10x better product. And over the last 2 years, we've started seeing the ability to build truly 10x better products. What do I mean? Well, we have a bunch of examples. You had Sanket here, and we'll talk about him in a minute, from InVideo, right? And these are just a handful of spaces, a handful of examples of what I mean by a 10x better product. All of you that raised your hand when you said you lose Cursor, you would agree that Cursor is a 10x better product. It's truly a 10x better product. You look at Bolt. The idea of building a website the way we did 2 or 3 years ago, man, it is so passé. The fact that you have to spend several hours building a website, seriously? That is so passé. Let's take a company like Nuance and Abridge. I don't know how many of you know of this in US healthcare, right? The fact that a doctor has to scribe is just an old idea. It's a 10x better product. So this is really, really important, right? One of the things that, like all of you, and 80, there's what, 600, 700 founders in this room. As you guys leave tomorrow and you get back to office, you should ask yourself and your teams, are you really building a 10x product? And my only ask from you is, if you're not, just stop. Unless, of course, you've already got to $50 and $100 million of revenue, and you can keep growing at 30%, that's fine. But if you're an early stage company, the benefit that you have the benefit of not having legacy. And that is a beautiful thing. Not to have legacy is a beautiful thing. You can go back to the drawing board. You can really ask the fundamental question of, are we building a 10x product? Now, what does it take to build a 10x product? I think the first and most important thing is unquestionable value for your customers. Could be a consumer, could be a prosumer, could be a business, could be an enterprise, could be a government, right? The best way to know that is unquestionable ROI. I can't tell you how many software companies I meet still that cannot clearly demonstrate an unquestionable ROI. If you cannot demonstrate unquestionable ROI, it's kind of difficult these days. It's kind of difficult these days, right? Why is it that the AI companies, the best AI companies, are growing super, super fast? Because they have extraordinary ROI. So that's the first thing. I think second thing is these products actually leverage novel capability. Could be RAG, could be voice, it could be reasoning. Puneet showed, deep research is a fantastic product, right? Those of you that haven't used it, deep research you should use. But that is a product that is uniquely enabled. It only exists because of the unique capabilities that we are seeing from these new models. And the last thing is, you have customer delight, okay? What AI has now enabled is to build products that truly delight customers. It's not about the average CSAT, the average NPS of SaaS companies globally is 37. That is miserable. Who on earth wants to build a company where your NPS is 37? Now, by the way, when I look at an industry where the industry NPS, this is the entire SaaS industry, okay? $250 billion of global revenue, NPS 37. You know what that means? It is totally up for disruption. Nobody ever built an enduring company with an NPS of 37. Now, here are some examples of 10x products from our portfolio, okay? We have a large number of AI companies. These are just a handful of examples. Sanket was here. InVideo is a great example. A faceless YouTube video creator, he talked about it. It used to take a faceless YouTube creator several hours to make a video. With InVideo, they make it in 2 minutes. So if you do that for a user, will they pay $20 a month? Absolutely. You take Ocwen. Ocwen is an agentic AI company in the finance space, okay? They led an equity analyst research who's either doing ESG research or credit to do a report that would take that analyst one whole week in 1 hour. And the examples go on, right? So hopefully you start getting a sense of what do we really mean by 10x better products. And this is the core. If you're going to build an AI native company, yes, there's a whole heck of a lot you need to do in terms of how you're going to build the product, how quickly you can build the product, etc. But if you can't get to a 10x better product, it just isn't going to work. And the second thing is, look, it's not just about building 10x better products. The reality is you can build these products with 90% fewer humans. Let me just take all of you that have more than $1 million, those of you that are building companies, your founders, you have over $1 million of revenue, please raise your hand. Please raise your hands. It's okay, just raise your hands. It's okay, okay. Right, if you have more than, no, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Okay, this is going to be quick, How many, if you have revenue per head count of over $100,000, keep your hand up. Okay, now those of you that dropped your hands, you're all IT services companies. Okay, I have news for you. You're IT services companies, okay? Like the best IT services companies all have revenue per head count of actually between $60,000 and $100,000. Infosys is about $58,000, okay? Now keep your hands up, you guys dropped your hands. How many of you have revenue per head count of over $500,000? Anybody? Right, guys, it's time to get game. It's time to get game, right? Puneet talked about this. You've got to leverage the tools that are available. Whether it's in coding, whether it's in support, whether it's in sales, whether it's in marketing. I tell you, one of our companies, right, we invested, it's an agentic AI company. They landed Unilever globally. And we said, like, how the hell did you land Unilever globally? They said, oh, it's our sales rep did it. I said, but you don't have a sales rep. They said, of course we have a sales rep. It's our agentic rep. By the way, that is happening. That is a real deal. In fact, that company is entirely now pivoted to building an agentic platform, led by sales first. So you've got to build 10x products. You can do it with 90% fewer humans. And I think it's important to keep in mind that expectations have changed, okay? In the SaaS era, we all talked about T2, D3. Triple, triple, double, double, double. This was what the top 10% of SaaS companies did over the last decade, maybe 15 years, right? You're a 2 million ARR company, you triple that, you go to 6, you triple that, you go to 18, then you double, 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 you go to 36, 72, 144. Well, I have news for you. This was very hard to do, right? You all agree? This is super hard to do. You look at this like, oh my God, that was really hard to do. That's why this was top decile companies. Well, I have news for you. This is no longer interesting. Here's the new AI model, okay? It's called the QQT. You start at 2 million, you quintuple to 10 million, then you go to 40 million and 120 million. You want to be a top decile AI company today. By the way, this is today, okay? This is what it is. And thanks to my colleagues Saksham and Pushpak who are here, who helped me with this deck for coming up with this. But this is it. The T2, D3 of SaaS era is the QQT of the AI era. And by the way, this is real. It can be done. And it starts, guess what? With the 10x better products. The other thing about expectations is 5x is the new 3x, right? So if you look at 2 million to 6 million versus 2 million to 10 million, many of you are early stage companies, so this is actually pretty relevant. It used to be that if you could triple your revenue, you were in like top quartile performance, right? Your peers, your team, your investors, the media, they loved you. Today, if you're growing 3x, that's pretty good. But 5x is the new 3x, right? And this is a slide I'm sure many of you have seen. This is after a product has been launched. By the way, I'm talking about after a company has launched a product, okay? It still does take a fair bit of time if you're going to build a serious product to actually launch a product. This looks at how long it takes to get to 30 million of ARR, top 10% AI companies, top 10% SaaS companies. You can see the difference, right? The top 10% of AI companies are getting to 30 million of ARR in 20 months. The x-axis is actually number of months. So it's happening very, very quickly. And not only are these companies growing very fast, these companies actually don't have a lot of people. And several of our speakers this morning talked about it, right? So Cursor went to 100 million of revenue in 21 months, and when they got to 100 million, had 20 employees. I hosted Aman at Cursor at a session that we have in the Bay Area about a month ago. By then, they had added another 10 people. They have 30. I think since then, they've added a whole bunch of people. You look at a company like Bolt and Mercor, right? 50 million of revenue, 24 months, 30 people, 15 people. By the way, I'm not saying this is the norm. This is the best of what it can be. It can be done, right? Sanket here shows that it can be done from anywhere in the world. He's done it from India. 0 to $65 million of revenue, 19 months from the time that GenAI product was launched, and he's got a total of 80 people, right? And if you look at, like, by the time he gets to 100 million in revenue, he'll pretty much be in the stack ranks of the top 10% of AI companies globally. And I think what's important with this wave, if you can build that 10x better product and you find the growth channels, the reality is you can grow faster than any other company in history. If somebody had come to me 18 months ago and said, you know what? There are going to be companies that grow faster than Wiz and grow faster than Deal. Those are the two fastest growing software companies in history. I'd have said, no chance, man. There's just no way. Those are very special companies. Wiz was a very special company. They executed faster than anybody else we've ever seen. Well, guess what? It's happening, right? Cursor kind of showed that it can be done. I think the other thing to keep in mind in terms of expectations and the reality is, for AI companies, okay, I'm not talking about SaaS companies, I'm talking about AI native companies of any sort, 15 million Series A is the new 5 million Series A. So what you should keep in mind is if you're able to build those 10x better products, you're able to show the kind of trajectory that we talked about, you should be thinking much bigger in terms of your fundraisers. In our portfolio, we've had a large number of our AI companies raise Series A's. Many of these names are surge companies, or seed stage companies that raise Series A's. Some of these are where we actually co-led the Series A. As you can see the numbers, they're all north of 15 million, right? So we are in an era in 2022, in 2023 and 2024, 2025 now, where this is actually the new normal when it comes to Series A. The other thing I also want to tell you when it comes to expectations is many of you will get to a stage, if you don't do a hard pivot to AI, or you don't really, really think deeply about these 10x products, I can guarantee you you're going to end up in this place. 3 million of revenue, 50% year on year. This is how much it has changed in terms of expectations of what great performance is, what people are really looking to do. Now, all this being said, look, it's important to also understand what has not changed. I think the most important thing that has not changed, since many of you are early stage founders, and I'm hoping a whole bunch of you go back and reset, reboot, and relaunch, the time to get to product market fit is still highly varied. Very, very few companies, even in the AI era, are able to get to instant product market fit. At a minimum, it's going to take you a couple of months. This is, by the way, after you build and launch, okay? Your build period may be 6 months, could be 12 months, could be 18 months. But after you build and launch, it could be 3 months, it could be 3 years. And this is really, really important. And this is something that hasn't changed from the previous era. This is not changed from the previous era, right? So this is something that hasn't changed. I think the other thing that hasn't changed is high quality. Sanket talked about what quality means for him. Not just video quality, but also retention, churn, things like that. The reality is, look, even in the AI era, retention is really important. NRR is very important. GRR is very important. Sales payback periods are very important. So the definition of quality. So those are really the two things that haven't changed. Now let's very quickly talk about moats. Because anytime you talk about AI companies, I'm not talking about a frontier model companies, okay? I'm talking about either tooling companies, infra companies, or I'm talking about application AI companies. The number one, number two, number three question you always get, we talk about this in our investment committees, is what about moats? So I'm going to share perspectives from two folks that we hosted. We hosted Arvind, who's the founder of Glean. Every year, we take about 60 or 70 of our software companies to the US. In Bay Area, happens in February. Arvind from Glean joined us last year. So let's hear from Arvind.
Different take. I don't believe in moats.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I think, and I think this may be different from advice that you get from others. Personally, to me, first of all, what moat do we have, for example, against Google? We got nothing. They have, 100 times more people, all the smart, great people, resources, brand. They have everything. I don't think we have anything, any secret sauce, in my opinion. I think all we have is a drive and a desire to build a product. And building a product is always hard and it takes time. And no matter how large you are, to actually build a good product, you have to learn from customers, and those learnings, happen over time. They cannot happen instantly, and that's what I think is your moat. Is the fact that you actually spend time. You
deeply understand your customers.
Yeah, and you spent 5 years working on it.
Right.
We, in those 5 years, as we tried to build a search product, we learned so much about enterprises and the challenges that people are going to run into it. So anybody trying to build a search engine right now is going to take them another 5 years, to actually go and figure those things out. So my belief is you have to look at the problem that you're solving. You have to build a product. As long as you build a good product, work hard on it, have a good team, you will succeed. So I don't think of hey, I'm going to change my product roadmap so that I can have a bigger moat.
All right, my time's up. So before you put the siren on, I just need a couple more minutes because Puneet got the siren, the SaaSBoomi siren. The second person I want you guys to hear from is Gokul Rajaram. Many of you may have heard of him, one of the best product leaders on planet Earth. We hosted him this year, and let's hear from Gokul.
You're going to see a massive cost lowering of API access or building AI models, and capital is no longer a moat in AI. What is a moat then? The challenge is for all of us who are investing in and building companies, what is a moat in AI? The only enduring moat is to invest in R&D and product development and keep building product. Because the reality is the foundation model companies are realizing that API layer is no longer going to be a viable business model. They're all coming up the stack. So for all of us who are building agents of different kinds, Anthropic, OpenAI, and others are going up the stack. They're most definitely going to come after agents. So the best moats are probably data that is not crawlable publicly, not available publicly, and is private, so that the foundation models cannot crawl it. Second, workflows that are complex and interconnected, where you need not just one agent, but 6 agents working in tandem to make something happen. And then third, domain of vertical expertise, maybe even systems integrator implementation expertise to make it work for an enterprise. So the more complex, interconnected the workflows are and harder to implement they are, and the more data that is private that they're trained on, the bigger moat we can get. But again, these are just temporary. I think every moat in software is going to be broken down, is going to be crossed. The only real moat is innovate. I actually feel that you've got to innovate 6 times and have 6 fundamental innovations for you to be an enduring company.
All right, I think I'm going to wrap with this. Girish also mentioned this. Look, in the internet era, and in many ways even in the SaaS era, India was late. Not because we wanted to be late, we were just late. Okay, I think what's important for all of you to keep in mind is in the AI era, this is it. This is the beginning, okay? We're at the start line at the same time. We've got history now, thousands of software companies, 28 unicorns, very, very advanced economy in terms of digital economy locally, but also we have 17 million developers, right? And I think Girish talked about this, and this is super, super important. Look, we are super excited about this wave. We have over 40 companies in AI across the stack, vertical AI, application AI, infra tooling, as well as in frontier models. And we can't be more excited about this, and I'll wrap with this. There's simply been never, ever been a better time. $20 to $25 trillion of new public market cap will be created. If you just assume there's going to be 20% of that will go to startups, you're talking about a $5 trillion market cap opportunity. And I'm hoping that many of you in this room will help us capture that. Thank you.